No, I'm just saying DreamWorks might have a shot. I mean, you see Puss in Boots and the Last Wish. It was a really good movie. Oh, hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Game Changer podcast. I'm your host, Nate the Ever Great, joined here by the lovely Tori Clark. And we are continuing the golden age talking about Disney with the three other movies that really hit hard, that being Fantasia, Dumbo, and Bambi, which honestly, watching all three of these movies back, I have a deeper respect for Fantasia. I'm seeing Dumbo in a different light. And Bambi, I literally was like, wow, this is literally Disney's version of Hamtaro at this point. Only the mother dies in this movie.
Hamtaro, what a throwback.
I know, really. It was just one of those things where I'm like, what else can I really describe it as? It's just that. But we'll get to talking about that. So let's first talk about Fantasia. Honestly, guys, I would consider this to be honestly a masterpiece of the early Disney deal. And I truly mean that because this is literally a movie that is almost like having a silent film with music in the background, very little dialogue, except for in between when they introduce a lot of the music and the genres of each of the themes. And yeah, like I said, honestly, it's just very beautifully done. And we'll talk about the first of all the songs that they have here, which are Toccata Fue in D minor, the
Mhm.
Nutcracker Suite, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Rite of Spring, the Pastoral Symphony, Dance of the Hours, and Night on Bald Mountain, followed by Ave Maria. So, first, talking about that long introduction in D minor and the Nutcracker Suite. Honestly, a pretty good starting point. This is definitely one of those where you're just kind of showcasing, like, hey, we're Disney. We can make cool things with great music. And honestly, it really does showcase with these two starting pieces. I'm putting these two together because they're in essence kind of the same thing. They're just introducing the audience to just very beautiful, whimsical sights. The second one, Nutcracker Suite, definitely is one of those songs that, Nutcracker, it's kind of kind of a show to me. But honestly, the way that they introduce it with a lot of the different, nature deals, they have like leaves and mushrooms and fairies introducing that, and it's really beautiful, honestly. But I don't know, Tori, what did you think about the first two musical numbers on this movie?
I think in general, one thing I thought was interesting when I was like really re-examining Fantasia was the fact that it was a little changed. Is this the one with the nymphs going through it? Sorry, I don't know them by names.
I
Like each
think
the is that the one with the creatures like the centaurs, all these different nature
yes, yes.
spring? Yes, yeah. I really, it really shows Disney's age. It was very pretty, beautiful. It reminds me of like, their Bambi and all the nature, the beauty. But one thing that I was interested in talking about in this is like one of the scenes was actually cut from the re-releases. Do you
That's
know that?
right. Yeah, I do know that. I was actually doing a little bit of research on that.
Yeah. And so that was, I'm like, I'm pretty sure it was this from this initial shot that they had like a caricature that seemed racist was or a racist caricature. But I mean it was Disney in the 50s.
Mhm.
So yeah, the re-release in 1969, the had to adjust for that, which you know, that's what happens when you have these old time Disney films. You're gonna have some questionable imagery.
Absolutely. Yes. So from there we go to the Sorcerer's Apprentice, which is basically the big debut of one of their most iconic characters, that being Mickey Mouse, who is the Sorcerer's Apprentice, who literally watches his quote unquote master. I think they actually had a name for this guy. I have to pull that up really quick here. Um, Gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of the guy. Well, now I have to
I
go down
don't
to.
remember that at all.
I just had it, so I had to figure out what was if it was. Oh gosh, now I cannot seem to find it. I thought I had it
Like
somewhere.
master sorcerer wizard.
Oh, yeah, Yen Sid. That's who it was. Okay.
Ooh. Do
So
you know
that
why? Like, who is that? Is that like
uh
a
honestly, I don't know. I just knew the sorcerer named Yen Sid. So you know something? On live here, we're gonna do a little bit of research on this. Who is Yen Sid and what on earth is he all
I'm
about?
just wondering because it's such a random.
It is a random kind of a name there. So he's well, I guess Grand Wizard sees your magic potential and entrusts your me care. Well, geez, that's not gonna help me. That's a video game of what Masters it is. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So this will be interesting. So what does yen sit mean? I mean, oh my gosh.
Are they trolling us?
No, it's really funny. So the first line in this, when it says, "What does yen sid mean?" Meaning Disney spelled backwards.
That is so funny.
I
Yeah.
know. I'm
That's
just like,
why, okay,
what?
I'm glad I asked the question. I'm glad I asked the question because I'm like, that's so random. Like, why did they like it almost sounded like a composer, like you know how like a Chinese composer or something like Yin Sid or something like strong. And you're like, nope, it is just Disney backwards.
I I really love that now. I appreciate that. So the
This is why we ask questions.
exactly. So the story itself is pretty basic, and honestly, it's a pretty good debut for Mickey, basically being just this apprentice that doesn't want to do work, so he gets the broomsticks to do it. But then he finds out, this guy just keeps going and going and going. You're not gonna do it. And then he's just like, I'll just take care of it with an axe. Uh-huh. Tries hard. Nope. Now you got 100 of them going crazy. And then it's finally Yen Sid. It's amazing now. Who basically calms everything down and is just like, oh, now you gotta do all the work all over again. He's like, okay. And honestly, it's a pretty good masterpiece. It's one of those things where, you know, some people might forget it, but once you get to Fantasia 2000, they'll remind you, hey, we did this again. So
Yeah. I think that's my most memorable. Like that's why when you're like naming them, I'm like, I don't know if I'll be able to like get them from name. I'm like, is this when this happens? Because Fantasia is so long ago, but this is of course, I think this was my favorite one. Just because of the lessons learned and poor Mickey not being ready. He wasn't ready. But by debut, you mean like debut in like film? Yeah.
yes, yes,
Okay. Just I'm
it was
just questioning, and that's what I'm here for, Nate, is to
yes.
question you.
So
Like by Mickey debut, I mean he was in Steamboat Willie and stuff.
yes,
So
he's in Steamboat Willie. He was in the Silly Symphonies. Yes, you are correct. This is basically his feature film debut,
yeah.
to be correct.
Yes.
And it won't be the last time that we see him in these feature films because there are a couple other films here that actually showcase him in different roles and different kind of uh, characteristics. So this will be kind of cool. But yeah, no, this was actually a really good way to debut an iconic character. Then we go to the Rite of Spring, which to me, this stands out to me the most. And why is that? Because they do a really impressive way of introducing the fans of Disney to dinosaurs. They go into this whole stage of like how evolution kind of happened, where they have these like little cells that develop in the water, and then eventually these cells great legs and stuff like that. So for those of you that believe in evolution, you'll probably just enjoy that. For me, it's just like it's just a beautiful, beautiful deal. Then it fast forwards a bit, and then you see the dinosaurs, and then there's a big battle sequence between a Stegosaurus and a Tyrannosaurus. And the crazy thing is that you never hear the dinosaurs make any noise, and it's all just through music. It's brilliantly done. It's still one of those things where I think as a kid it definitely frightened me a bit, but now I keep looking back on it, and I'm like, this is probably one of the best ways to just kind of introduce, I don't know if I would say introduce, but basically get people kind of interested in what dinosaurs were kind of like and kind of like the battles and the struggles that they had to deal with, because in the end, unfortunately, they go extinct because starvation and dehydration, everything like that. So it's gets to be a bit dark at the end. I mean, literally, you do see dinosaur bones literally in the middle of a desert, and it's like, oh wow, they went down that path. It's like, yeah, no, they they wanted to really introduce that, like, hey, this is basically where dinosaurs live, and now they're dead.
I mean, I love myself a good dinosaur.
But yeah, no, it's just very well done. I think that there was even some people that did like a a remake of that, but they actually included like dinosaur noises, including
Mm,
like noises of like the dinosaurs making, noises, the big stomping and the dinosaur roars and stuff like that. It's definitely surreal. And it's one of those things where, like, okay, I appreciate the thought, but I like the original one better because it literally is just like, you're watching the visual and like a silent film, the music kind of makes it more meaningful, I think.
yeah. I have a question for you again, and I know I keep asking all these questions to, put you on the spot, but do you know if Fantasia, like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, is it the animation or the music pieces, or did they like actually sit down and write music to the animation?
So if I had to take a guess, I mean, this is probably a good discussion point. I didn't really do too much research on this, but if I had to take a guess, I would probably think that the I think it definitely has to be like the music came first and then they try to have the animation kind of match up with it. And in the end though, it's one of those things where it's like I don't think it really matters because in my opinion, they kind of complement each other in a very well done kind of way. So it's one of those things where, I wish I had the perfect answer for you, but for me, I'm just like, in the end, I don't really care because it's a beautiful movie. It is definitely one of those movies that I look back at. I think if you want to see Disney at its finest, definitely Fantasia, which is weird because a lot of people are saying like back in the day, it wasn't very well received. I think right now this was probably like the lowest grossing movie of Disney so far, even though it's their third movie. They had a budget of $2.28 million, and they made about 76.4 to 83.3 million, and that's across
Mm.
United States and Fantasia. So definitely seems like it was not as big as Pinocchio and Snow White were. But I think a lot of people are definitely looking back at it and just being like, man, this is a really good movie. This is definitely very beautiful. I'll definitely just combine like the last few ones together. So Petrol Symphony, which is the whole like Roman deal where you have Bacchus, the god of wine. Hopefully, said that right. I know there's gonna be some
Mhm.
Greek people that'll probably be like, "Oh, it's this way." I'm like, I'm sorry. And they have like the centaurs, which I've seen the research where
Oh,
they
that's
actually,
the one I was talking about.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the one I was talking about.
This is the one where they had the questionable character, but also, and so between that, and there were also points where people were saying like the some of the centaurs, especially the female ones, were too what's the word I'm looking for? Too revealing, I think is the case. So they basically are just saying like, can we have something just to cover the chestish area? And there's like, yeah, sure, it's fine. We could definitely do that. I think they also wanted the male centaurs to feel less intimidating, which I thought you could make male centaurs intimidating. That's I never thought you could do that, but okay. And then basically at the end of this whole deal, this is where Zeus comes in. He basically ruins everything, and it gets to be just a crazy madness deal. It is definitely one of those uh, spots in the film where I'm just kind of like, what is all this? But at the same time, I'm just kind of like, this is a very unique and surreal deal. And when we get to talk about Hercules, it is definitely going to be interesting. Being like, well, we went from this Zeus to a different Zeus.
I love that. This is two different. Oh, by the way, I Googled the question too.
Oh, okay.
Do so I kind of made me seem dumb. Obviously the music came first because they're classical pieces, which I'm like, well, yeah, but I meant not like wrote the music for Fantasia, but like did they do the animation and the music? But no, the music definitely came first.
Um, so it was kind of the chicken came first or something like that. I don't know.
Yes, yes, with 8 pre-existing works of classical music. So
That sounds about right.
the film obviously did the animation for the pieces that they chose.
Yeah. Next song is Dance of the Hours, which honestly, not really too much you can say about it. I mean, you have, I think there was like, what was there? There's ostriches, hippos, elephants, and then alligators. They basically go through like
Dancing.
dancing. I think that's really all you can really put on that. This was probably the one where I was just like, it is what it is. Then we get to Night on Bald Mountain, and holy shit. This was one of those things where it's like if you wanted a banger of an animation to end the movie, this was definitely it. Basically, I mean, even the guy who did the introduction to it, he basically just saying like, no, this is basically how it is where the devil with all of his demons are coming out in the nights. And the way that this animation goes about, this is one of those things where I'm like, I guarantee there were kids that were just screaming at nights just thinking about this literal gargoyle that was just up in the mountaintops, and all these like fire creatures who are just, this is just beautiful animation. And of course at the end of it's basically a bell that is his weakness. But he's basically saying like, oh, it's 6 o'clock, okay, time to go to bed.
I mean, it is scary. I think that's like the more we talk about Fantasia now is the more like I can see why I wasn't a big fan of Fantasia. Like I still am not a huge fan, but I can respect it a lot more than I did as a kid. But this stuff is scary. This stuff doesn't appeal to me as a child when you're watching Pinocchio and all this like these little cutesies that you're like, oh, I can kind of get behind that as a kid. But Fantasia was just like, why aren't they talking? And why aren't these animals talking? And why is it like the music almost makes it scarier because of the like crashes and the loudness? And I mean, I think the right way to see Fantasia would be to see it on a screen with a live orchestra. Like that would be amazing. And I can respect it even more then. And I know they had some like they have those events sometimes. But other than that, I was like, ooh, I could see why I wasn't a fan.
And like I said, as time goes on, I definitely respect it a lot more just because of the fact that it's A, unique, but also B, because of the fact that it's something completely different. And eventually we do see Fantasia 2000 try to recreate that, and we'll get to that in another day. But honestly, this was a very beautifully done film. And like I said, I've definitely gotten a lot more respect for it. So it's very
Yeah.
well done.
Animation too is great. Like
Like
you were saying, like the
top
animation
tier.
is amazing, but just a little too scary.
Yeah, like you said, there's some points where it's just like, okay, this is really good, but then there's some points where the animation is just like, oh God, can we just move on to like the next big thing? And then next thing you know, you get Bald Mountain. I'm like, okay, now it's good again.
And you know, I like let's be real, I don't think the target audience for Fantasia was children.
No, no, I definitely agree
You
with that.
know, it's definitely not. And like I think that's where like when I was growing up, when like Fantasia was like when my parents brought home that movie, you're like, oh, finally a new movie, and you're like, this is awful, like this is so scary, there's no talking,
I
like
got ripped.
ah,
I got ripped off. What
yeah.
is
As a kid,
this?
you're like, wait a second. But as an adult, like again, you're everybody should watch all Disney movies again as an adult. I think that's something that like is a blanket statement I could put over each one. You'll figure out something new and respect for it differently, or maybe you hate it then. Like you're
Right,
like, oh, this wasn't that good. But Fantasia is one of those that I was like, oh, this was meant for adults.
right. It definitely broadens your horizon. Speaking of which, this is a pretty good transition to the next movie, which is Dumbo. Uh, let me get my notes on that one quick here because I almost
Oh,
forgot about
good.
that. So, Dumbo released on October 23rd, 1941 in New York City. In honesty, can't really blame them for doing that. And then released to the entire USA on October 31st, 1941. So this was on Halloween. So you
Oh,
that's kind of funny to think like, well, kids, you got two options. You want to go trick or treating, or do you want to see a movie about an elephant?
an elephant. It
Elephant,
does get in
please.
costume.
That is
Elephant
true.
also gets in costumes.
That is true. I forgot about that. So Dumbo is a movie where it talks about a small pachyderm, small elephant, who is gifted with big ears. And basically, this little elephant is trying to get through life with so many different, just, it is really sad looking back at it and just seeing how this little elephant is just getting very little to no love from the rest of the world because he is so different. It's one of those things where it hits differently because you just think to yourself, man, this poor little guy, he's just trying to live life. And to be honest, that is probably one of the reasons why I think a lot of people love uh, the mouse Timothy is because he's the first one to literally be like, I don't see anything wrong with him. It's like, hey, Dumbo's going to get a friend. That's awesome. And I will say this that this movie started off very bizarrely because first minute I started watching this, I just hear this huge grand narration of it being like, oh, through the wind and rain and through the stormy nights. And here comes the stork. And then it just goes into like, oh, here comes the storks and they're delivering babies. And it's like, huh, this just kind of escalated from a 10 to like a 5 in a matter of 1 minute. Because like
Lost him because of the stork.
no, because of how it just kind of went from like this grand thing to just look out for Mr. Stork. He's coming to your child. Just when I was thinking, wow, this kind of de-escalated quickly. But at the same time, I kind of admire that just because
Again, yeah. A send off though, Nate. I thought babies came from storks.
hey, they've made at least 2 or 3 movies about that right now. One of which was my
No.
DreamWorks. Not a cheap one, but, but
Are you
oh my gosh.
sponsored? Are you
No.
sponsored by DreamWorks?
Oh no, 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 no. Just because I'm watching Puss in Boots The Last Witch, it doesn't mean that I'm sponsored by
I actually heard that is semi like, well, again, my niece is 4, but I heard it's great.
it. It is. Side note, definitely watch it. It's amazing.
Okay.
So so Dumbo. So 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 here's the crazy thing about this is that uh I gotta figure out the person who played this stork because one of the cool things about it was that as soon as I heard the stork's uh voice, I literally thought to myself, oh geez, I recognize this guy. Oh, that's right. He was also the oh
Who is
geez.
he?
It's Sterling Holloway. So he'll be voicing another character in a future movie, that being in the Jungle Book. So that was kind of,
Oh,
but I also remember that he was also the
is he
story.
Bagheera? Is
No,
it
he
Bagheera?
no, he's Kaa in Jungle Book.
Oh, okay. Now I know who you're talking about. I was like, I don't think I heard that voice.
So so the other cool thing is that this guy also was a stork in uh one of the Disney stores. I want to say it's another Silly Symphony. Lambert the Sheepish Lion. He was also the stork that delivered Lambert the lion by accident to a to a mother sheep. So it's just one of those things like, huh. So we got an
He's not
example
good
of
at his
him.
job.
Well, he's good at one instance. The second instance, well, he did what he was told. Let's just say that right now. But I really appreciate that. But also another voice actress who is in this, who will be in another movie that we will have, that being uh Verna Felton, who not only voices the as they put in here, the elephant matriarch, but also Mrs. Jumbo. So she literally had 2 voice roles in this entire thing. I'm like, okay, so she's being this top and pompous elephant, and then she would have this kind of meek and very kind of lowly voice of being a mom. So it's just one of those things like, oh wow, she's really good. And then I think to myself, wait, she also looked at her filmography. Yep, she's also the Queen of Hearts and Alice in the Wonderland. I'm like, yes,
No way, really?
yes, yes.
What?
I
Wait, we're
literally,
talking about the
yes,
mom elephant.
the mom elephant and the kind of like matriarch elephant, the one who had like a lot of purple and was just very high on herself and being like,
Yes,
oh,
yeah. Yeah. Weird.
I know. This is one of those things where like, oh my gosh, the more you know. I love this. I love this. Crazy enough, the title character Dumbo is mute. Does not say a
Yep.
single thing this entire thing. And honestly, I respect that because it's literally just by his emotions where you basically have to feel like, okay, what is he about? How is he feeling? And it's just, he's just so freaking adorable. It's one of those things where I'm just like, okay, I know I give Pinocchio a lot of grief for everything he did, but Dumbo's a baby elephant. Baby elephants are cute, especially this one. He's got big ears. I don't care what anybody says. He's freaking adorable. Are you kidding me?
He is. And yeah, Dumbo's one of those that like pulls on your heartstrings and stuff. I think it also doesn't it started out with the crows, right?
No, it ends with the crows.
Oh, it
So the
ends with the
storks.
it starts with the storks, ends with yeah. Again, Dumbo is one of those that you're like, are they allowed to do that?
So,
Are they
so,
allowed to do all this stuff?
so the crazy part about this is that the storks, for me, I looked back after rewatching this movie. I was just literally kind of like, you know what? I don't feel that offended when it comes to them. Uh, Obviously, I can't speak for everybody when it comes to that, but it's just one of those things like these are characters. These are not just one of those things where it's like, oh, this is the shot at this racial thing. No, no, these are people that are given a character, and these are the ones that came out. Unfortunately, it came out as racially insensitive. So, but it's just one of those things where I look back and I'm just kind of like, you have to remember this, that a lot of the characters that people will remember, are they going to remember a lot of the herds of the elephants? No. Are they going to remember all the clowns that were involved in this? No. Are they going to remember the crows? You bet your bottom dollar they're going to remember the crows because they had one of the best songs, most memorable songs in the
Yep.
entire movie. And also, they were just very memorable characters. For me, the one thing that troubled me was one of the songs in here, the song of Rustabouts, where basically it is talking about slavery. It's one of those things where I had to watch these lyrics. I'm like, what? How did they get away with this for so long? Basically, like work all day and work all night, basically not making them much in the way of money. I'm just looking at this like, how in the world did
Yeah.
this get greenlit by anyone? And how is it still how is it still in the movie? This is this is one of those things where I'm just like, what? No, 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 this is one of those songs I want out. Just get it out of the movie. This is
Nate
not,
votes no.
I
Nate
definitely
votes
vote
no.
no. Although,
That's funny.
if I can, I will say there is a positive on this one, is that that song "Baby Mine," which my God, is that a tearjerker?
Hmm.
Um, that actually got nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song. Didn't win it, but at the same time, I'm glad that somebody got recognized for that work. That was really great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dumbo getting made fun of, loses all the love. Oh,
Which we go from Baby Mine to the other big thing that happened during this movie, which my God, rewatching this, I'm literally thinking to myself, how many mushrooms did these people have when they thought of this scene? That being the pink elephants on parade, because my
oh, that was
goodness.
so creepy. It is creepy, regardless of how trippy it is. It was creeping me out, regardless.
I think as after watching that again, my jaw was on the ground being like, what am I watching? This is just it's kind of one of those moments where you're just like in shock that the only thing that you can do after watching it is you just have to laugh like, okay, my emotions don't know how to handle this right now.
And they were
And
drunk, right?
I'm like,
Where wasn't didn't the the mouse and Dumbo get drunk?
yeah, it was one of those things where yeah, the clowns were having a little of the champagne, and then one just accidentally threw it in a bucket, and to kind of help calm down Dumbo, Timothy thought, "Oh, here's a bucket of water. Just take this." And Dumbo unfortunately gets drunk in this one. Then
I
Timothy
mean,
unfortunately falls in, and he gets drunk. And
it's so funny. Like that's what I'm saying. Like this isn't allowed anymore, but that's
no,
hilarious. And like that's what they were like showing alcohol being like a drug trip, which is hilarious. Which alcohol is a drug, don't get me wrong.
mhm.
But come on, I've never seen any elephants, crazy colors, yelling clown faces at my face. Like, no, no. I don't hallucinate when I drink.
I never feel like I'm going to be upside down in my bed and seeing elephants just walking around my bed, just going up and down, thinking, "What'll I do? What'll I do?" What an unusual view.
Good callback.
Oh my
But
gosh.
no, that is really creepy. And yeah, if that ever does happen to you, Nate, I think that you should be checked to see like somebody spiked your drink, they gave you a roofie, they're trying to get with you. I don't know.
You know what? That is fair, especially considering the fact that after they get drunk, they find themselves at the top of a tree, where apparently they find out, hey, Dumbo can fly. So
How did we get up here?
that was one of the best scenes in the whole movie. Is just them trying to figure out like how do they do that, and then of course we get the memorable song of "I've seen about everything when I see an elephant fly,"
That's
which
great.
it's the best song in the entire
It
movie.
is.
Um, yeah, so overall, this is one of those movies where there are a couple of like collar tugging moments, but it's one of those things where I feel like you have to be in a certain state of mind to watch this
Mm,
movie. I,
agreed.
I,
Very much so.
what would I say? It's a drinking game? No, no. I think if you are buzzed and you watch that pink elephant scene, you will probably be thinking to yourself, "I've had too much to drink."
Yeah. Yeah, I think Dumbo is one of those that it's supposed to teach you a pretty good lesson, like talks a lot about discrimination and bullying and all that stuff, like it has some really deep, darker themes that a lot of the Disney movies now, like they touch on different things, but like prejudice and bullying, discrimination, like that was very much so like ahead of their time almost. So
Now,
it did good. It did good, but as we saw now, we're like, ooh, a little much for us now. Can you pull it back a little bit? It's making us all feel weird.
no, only slightly, only slightly. And by slightly, I mean about this much. And by this much, I mean that much. You can't really see, but I'm literally giving like a full inch right now, ladies and gentlemen. We're still working on possibly getting this into a video deal. Right now, we're not quite there yet. We're getting there. We're getting close, but um, eventually we will have the chance for you guys to see us, see our pretty little faces, and be able to just. um, so now we go into the final movie, which is Bambi, which I swear, honestly, if I would have figured that Patrick Stewart was the Prince of the Forest, Bambi's dad, that would have been
Wait, what?
absolutely. I said if
Oh,
I
I was like,
have
what? Because
I
you've been
have
like
doubts.
saying you've been saying the voice actors. So I'm like, wait, he did what?
No, no, if no, it's definitely not Patrick
Very
Stewart.
regal
If
voice, though. He still has a very regal
Oh
voice.
yes. Yeah, Patrick Stewart was the one that was the great Prince of the Forest. That would have been amazing. Honestly, I probably would have been kind of chuckling to myself, like, it's Patrick Stewart. But no, it's not. So yeah, Disney's version of Hamtaro. I think that's probably the best way I can put this, honestly, because do people think to themselves, oh, you're gonna have like a great adventure or stuff like that? It's like probably not. I mean, it's not like till the very end that they get really, really dark. Honestly, you're seeing a lot of like, again, beautiful imagery by um, Disney, where they basically show nature. They show a lot of these, beautiful creatures and like owls and birds and bunnies and deer. It's just kind of one of those things where I really watched this, and I think I actually texted you this. I literally just said, I'm watching Bambi, and I don't know what it is, but I just can't help but smile a lot when it comes to
Yeah.
this. I think it's just a very calming and relaxing movie for the most part, where you're just seeing everything going on here. You're just seeing this little deer just growing up, and it's learning to walk, and it's learning to talk, and learning to, just socialize and such like that. And there's so many moments in here where I'm just kind of like, you know what? There's a lot of relatable moments when it comes to this. And honestly, I also love how just warm-hearted this movie is. Like that first scene where Bambi is learning to talk. He's learning, words like bird, butterfly, flower. And that's where he meets a skunk that basically is named Flower. And honestly, it's just so warm-hearted when literally this little deer, Bambi, is going, pretty, pretty flower. And flower is just literally just
Mhm.
going like, "Oh gosh." It's those
It's
things
so
like
cute.
it's just adorable. It's just one of those
It's
things where I'm like, "Why can't we have a world like this where just one day everybody gets along?"
it's so nostalgic too. Like that's Bambi is one of those that obviously I actually really, really liked Bambi growing up. I just would stop it before bad things happened. Like I remember like my mom would have to like turn it off before, anything bad. Not that I'm gonna give spoilers. But in general, I think it like what I love most about Bambi is like when you were saying it like relaxes you and stuff. I feel like it's like a homage to like almost like Midwestern America. Like it's so much the forest, the deciduous forest. Like it's just like North America's forest life. And it's really beautiful. And it reminds me of the Midwest, like 100%. Like when I think of them, because I also think of like, if you had a grandpa or your dad ever hunted and they have like the deer stuff and whatnot and all the different wildlife, like almost like the look of some of my grandparents' homes reminded me of this movie,
Yeah, I can agree with that
right?
because it does have kind of like the deal, like if you remember like a lot of their like photos that would be hanging up on their walls,
Yes.
it kind of just looks like that.
Yes. I'm like, whenever I see, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was like a time frame in life. And it's always like a grandparent, right? It's like like old, like, and they would have deer and like bunnies places. And you're like, oh, this is Bambi.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite characters was always Thumper, and not for the reason that you might think, but at the very start, there were so many moments where he would just say something, and the mom would just be like, "What did your father tell you this morning?" And he's just being told like
And
stuff
he's
like,
like, I can't do it.
"If you can't say something nice, don't say it at all."
And like the yeah. Like, yeah. Like just you could just see like the little kids. They're like, she's such a little kid that like, stop her. Uh,
Oh, and then it gets even crazier because once we get to you know what? We are going to spoilers about this. I could put, uh,
obviously there's
yeah,
spoilers.
I
If you haven't
let
seen
me.
it, you're
Let-
too ignorant.
here's your spoiler, ladies and gentlemen. As the late great Matthew Perry once said, as Chandler, yes, it was really sad when the artist stopped drawing the deer. So, so unfortunately, during the movie, Bambi's mother dies, and it's one of those scenes that definitely still hits really hard because it's just this one deer just calling out for his mom, and there's just a moment where he suddenly realizes, that she's not coming back. That hits so hard, especially when you get to hear the great prince say, and this is one thing that really hits me really hard with this because I think to myself, okay, so he calls Bambi his son, and two things are going through my head. It's either A, he is a legit kid, or B, that's just his way of just slowly adopting him to be his son because obviously he probably would have made it on his own. So it's just kind of those things like, wow, there's a double meaning in a Bambi movie. Disney, why do you got to be so amazing? Why do you got to make me think like this?
Right? Like it does. It's interesting. It is. I don't know if he's like truly his dad or not either. Like you're like, okay, is he like, because when they call him the prince of the forest and everything, you're kind of like, oh, like everybody's his children.
And like a Mufasa thing, which we'll talk about when we get to Lion King. No spoilers. Um,
But yeah,
it's
it was interesting. And I forget, what did he tell Bambi too? Did he tell Bambi he's like alone now or?
yeah, it was just one of those things
Yeah.
like no, she's not coming, and Bambi just has that moment of realizing that he's right. Uh, your move land before time.
Oh,
um,
that was sad. I actually recently rewatched Land Before Time, and I just remember being like, ugh. This isn't even a Disney movie. How are they killing the mom?
That's gonna be another good movie we're reviewing eventually. But then they go into like their adulthood and the the friend owl, which in all honesty, I look at friend owl and I think to myself, this is every grandparent ever, where he's like, he's so nice, but when he gets pushed to his limits, he can be the biggest grouch that you could possibly
He just
ever
looks at
have.
him, just
Oh
one
my
look, and they're
God.
like, oopsie.
You're right. Just that one look, it's just like that is a grandparent move right there, where just
Yep.
one look and they're just like, okay,
Everybody quiet.
everybody's quiet.
Grandpa's looking at us. That means he can hear us.
And that grandparent talks about the Winnipeg. That's what it was. Basically, falling in love because it's during the springtime, and all three,
The birds
Thumper,
and the
Flower,
bees.
yeah, Thumper, Flower, and Baby, like, oh, they're not gonna fall in love. It's like, oh, nope, you did, slowly but surely. It's just one of those things where I'm just watching this, being like, you know what? Everybody falls in love in a different way, and honestly, that's why this is really good. And then in the end, we get the introduction of man who who basically are like, oh, we're gonna hunt. Oh crap, we started a forest fire. It's like, yeah, way to go, dudes. Why?
We suck.
Man, we suck.
Yeah, sorry. We're here to suck. Like, damn it. Here we go again. Making
and,
us feel bad, Disney.
and of course, this is basically like the big climax. And
Hmm.
Bambi, Great Prince, they rescue everybody or as many as they can. There is legit one scene where they basically show one of the pheasants getting shot down, and I'm like, um, some kid has got questions, and I'm not going to answer them. That is, I think that's the best part of being an uncle or an aunt, just being literally like, if something happens, and and your niece or nephew is just like, why did this happen? I'm like, why don't you go ask your parents about this? I'm sure they
That's
would love to
not
explain.
my job.
My job's to be the fun one. I'm not going to burst your fun bubble. Go talk to your parents about the harshness of reality.
Yeah, I just take you to the movies. I don't talk about them afterwards.
I forget, how old are you? 4? Yeah, no, we're not at that point yet. Wait until you're about 10, then we'll start having real talks.
We'll have real talks. When I'll give you your first drink.
Of soda. Jeez Louise, people, calm down. But Baby is just another one of those movies that I feel like you do still have to be in the right, you have to be in a certain mindset to watch, but at the same time, I feel like you could still watch it on just a random day and just feel pretty calm and relaxed up until a certain point. Then it's just like, ooh, this is getting too real for me. Just first
Yeah.
half hour, 45 minutes, I want to say, is when it's just nice, it's peaceful, it's relaxing. It's just
Like
like,
the rain, like the drip, drip, drop, da, 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 da,
oh man, that was
da.
even beautiful.
Yeah. Yep. It's so
Man.
nostalgic. That's what when I think of Bambi, I'm just like nostalgia of like, oh, it's so beautiful and so light and spring. And then you're like, ooh, and then it gets dark.
And no surprise, it happens. It's the pain starts happening around winter time.
What? No way.
We live in the Midwest. We can say crap about winter all we want.
Well, you do. I live in Los Angeles.
That is fair. That is fair.
What
But
winter? What's that?
I'm about to say, you've lived in the Midwest majority of your life. I think you could still consider yourself a Midwesterner, even if you live in California.
I'm from the Midwest, but yes, I live in California now, and no winter, so that's why I can't watch Bambi anymore.
She see now she's one of those people that literally looks at us and being like, "Ha, sucks to be you guys. I'm down here in California. I'm warm, yeah."
I do, and I love it.
You
No
just
regrets, no regrets.
this is so totally off topic, but now I'm just thinking to myself, do you just text your parents and being like, "Oh, how's the weather out there? Do you have snow? Oh, that sucks. I'm enjoying sunny time up here in Los
Just at the
Angeles."
beach. Well, I haven't actually ever. bragged about my weather, but when everyone's complaining about their weather, I will send a picture of myself at the beach. So
As you should.
you shouldn't
So,
complain to me. I will make it worse.
so yeah, Bambi's a really good movie to kind of end off
Yeah.
of. And I'm trying to give me a moment, ladies and gentlemen, because I actually do still have the quote unquote rankings that I have for these movies right now.
Oh yeah, nice.
So at the end of this deal, after all the five movies that we have, I have Snow White as number one,
Mm.
Fantasia as number two, Bambi at number three. And honestly, it's a tough one for me. I put Dumbo and Pinocchio as a tie right now. It's like both have their good moments, but also have their moments of like, oh,
Yeah.
the neck collar tug. Just
Yeah.
it's really hard. It was like, oh, okay, I think Dumbo's gonna be lower. No, Pinocchio's gonna be I just have like the scales right here. Like, man, this is tough. I feel like I need to be in the right mindset when it comes to it. Nope, we're just gonna keep it level. Keep it level. I think that's the fair point at this one.
That's
So
nice of you. That's very nice of you.
I try to be a cool, considerate man, but it doesn't work out that way. So all right, ladies and gentlemen, next time that you'll be hearing from us, we will be talking about 1943 through 1949's wartime era, which is an interesting era to say the least. You're going to hear a lot more about movies that definitely focus on the music, but hey, to be fair though, to don't worry, Tori, there's going to be plenty of movies here where they're going to have more animals talking and people talking
Yay!
like that. So
I love when animals talk.
so it isn't going to be one of those things where it's going to be like purely like Fantasia, where it's like, oh, it's going to be majority music with like little tiny talk. Nope, nope, nope. They're going to have more people that are going to be talking these few. I'm kind of interested in seeing how a lot of these do because I looked at a couple of these and I'm like, okay, I've not actually seen this one in its entirety. Which the first one is going to be Salute Amigos, but Three Caballeros,
Oh,
that one I've actually seen, and it's interesting. Make Mine Music, which I don't think I've watched that one in its entirety. Melody Time, Fun and Fancy Free, which honestly I'm looking forward to that one. And then the Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, which I think I just recently watched those two, and I'm just like, wow, this is a very weird mismatch of two different movies in one. But
I've never seen like any of them.
oh,
So
so
I have a lot to do and apparently in the next week.
well, we're not going to be well, ladies and gentlemen. Just bear in mind, we're not going to do all of these in one episode because then
Oh, phew.
you wouldn't have that many episodes in here. So, I think to be fair, we'll do we'll divide this one up into three parts, which will be Salute Amigos and Three Caballeros, which I think that actually makes the most sense. Then we'll do Make Mine Music. Uh, then we have Melody Time. I think they have it as Make My Music Fun and Fancy Free and then Melody Time. But I think we'll do
Hmm,
Make Mine Music and Melody Time as the second one, and then Fun and Fancy Free and The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad as the final episode there. So yeah,
cool.
no, it's I think that's fair. I think it's a
Yeah,
fair deal indeed.
that that sounds good.
So that will wrap it up for another edition of the Game Changer podcast. We are covering a lot of Disney for the foreseeable future. And also, I definitely want to give a shout out to a couple of friends of mine, Stefano's Magic, who are a couple, Anthony DeStefano and his wife, who talk a lot about Disney. They talk about like current day news, they talk about magic, they talk about a lot of things that are going on with Disney currently. And I think they even do a couple of vlogs where they actually go to Disney World and
Wow.
Disneyland. So it is kind of one of those things where I'm like, Dad, these guys are, I'm so jealous of them. So, but it's really funny. I'm actually going to bring this up right now because I post at the time of this recording, I actually posted the episode up because I've had a little bit of a hard time trying to get this to upload onto the Facebook deal, but I was able to find a way to get it up.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, I wondered. I didn't see it. So
so it is up and ready to go. I'll send you the link when the show's over. So
sweet.
so I got the episode up and there were quite a few people that were showing lots of love to us. Uh Anthony DeStefano, he said to me, "Welcome to the Disney content world." It's a fun community. Been in it for about 9 months now, which in all honesty, comparing the wrestling community to the Disney community, I expect Disney's a little bit more safe haven than the wrestling world. But to give you guys a little bit of a deal that you're going to see in the foreseeable future, there is a chance that if we can work this out, this would be really cool. That when we get to talking about Wish, that we may have a co-op episode with DeStefano's Magic on there. So I think that would be a really cool deal to actually
Ooh.
have our podcast kind of work together on this. I think it'd be really good to have, 4 different personalities on here. Hey, you got 2 guys, 2 ladies that are involved in this. What more can you really ask for, really, when it comes to that? So,
Right?
little something to look forward to when it comes to the future here. But before we get to that, we still have quite a bit of movies to talk about here. So, you guys will have to wait on that just a little bit, but it's going to be a fun time. We still have quite a few good memories before we talk about the questionable ones. I think for me,
uh,
once we get to like the Disney DVD or straight to movie sequels, so that's where it's going to be like, oh, these are going to be some major hits and misses. I can definitely tell. Some of these movies that are on for quite a while, they're still going to be either pretty good or going to be like, okay, this is still passable for some reason. Uh, but I think that we still got a long ways to go before we reach movies that are going to be like, oh, I regret watching this.
right, right. I mean, Wish was a weird one. So if we all talk about that, like,
Like I said, that feels like a movie that you need more than just 2 minds to talk about. So
right. The fact that Chris Pine was in it too, I had to look that up. He
I,
was the bad guy. Like
I,
who casts him as a bad guy? Like, come on.
well, apparently he was the bad guy in Wonder Woman 84 for all we know. I don't know.
Aha. That's
So,
funny.
so
That
many
was
people are gonna
funny.
be like,
I was like, what are you talking about?
he was not the villain in Wonder Woman 84, sir. I'm like, I know, I'm just making a joke. It was just one of those things where
He was taken advantage of in that.
like he
Remember?
was. That is true. That's true. Because oh geez, I'm not gonna dig myself into that hole. So
Mm-mm.
we're
Stay
gonna
away from
leave the
that one.
memories
Do not
alone.
enter.
Gosh, I
Oh,
think
that was
they're
great though.
so for that, ladies and gentlemen, you can follow me on the Twitter and on the Instagram at RealFNGame. Be sure to check out also Brace for Impact that I do, where I talk about some wrestling, some total nonstop action wrestling, if you will. I'm sure to also check out Wrestletic Radio, where I get to work with a lot of great people there, and check out their podcasts as well that are on so many different formats, including Spotify. Miss Tori Clark, where may they find you by chance?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Tori Clark _boss mode. And that's the only place that I ever post. And it will eventually randomly show up on Facebook, but cool. Oh,
The connecting world of Instagram and Facebook, because
yep.
why not?
Yep. Instagram will just like post it and I'm not allowed to do anything about it. So
Mark Zuckerberg, get your shit together. Oh God, I should stop. I need to stop.
it's taken on Disney, on Meta. It's getting real.
It's getting too meta. So thank you guys so much for listening in. Be safe, be kind to each other. Have a good one. Fear me. Dare.